for example, 17 beats evenly spaced over 5 beats, or 13 beats evenly spaced over 2 beats, or 17 beats evenly spaced over 2 beats. And these are done in chain, one after another, so even though the meter remains the same, 3/4, 5/8, 6/8, those meters that we're used to, the performer has to do various subdivisions that are, there's no other word for it, they're simply abnormal for us to comprehend. People aren't used to reading that, and it demands developing a cognitive technique that we don't currently have. To say that there's some difficulty is putting it mildly. When I was working in London, I remember when Frank and I first walked into the rehearsal. Bear in mind that I had never worked with Frank at this point before. And I didn't realize that wherever he goes, he normally wears a bright pink bathrobe and yellow shoes and extraordinary-looking pants. And I don't know, to me, it sort of took me by surprise, and I'm sure it took the LSO by surprise when we met them, and they were sort of laughing and joking about his appearance, and laughing and joking by the fact that there had been so many rehearsals slated in to work up this music. Because this group is a fantastic group. They make their living through sight reading. So we started with the most difficult piece, and the diameter of the eyeballs began to expand to be as big as saucers almost. But the nice thing was at the very, very end, the group was more than cordial towards Zappa as a composer. They gave him about the warmest ovation and the warmest encouragement in his composition career that I've ever seen an orchestra give anybody before. So I think they were convinced, after all the sweat and hassle of figuring out this music, they were convinced that it was worth the trouble, and that the concert was a very, very enjoyable one.
I write a lot of music in 3/4. I've probably written as many waltzes as anybody in Vienna ever dreamed up. I like the time signature 3/4. However, it's subdivided in such strange ways that you'll never know that it's a waltz. I've written marches in waltz tempo. But what happens inside of those bars is rhythms that are more related to the way people talk than to the way machines work, which I find more natural than listening to machines.
By the way people talk, do you mean fits and starts, ups and downs, all shades of colorings? What?
Yeah, just like conversation, because I think that's the way instruments ought to perform. They ought to talk to the audience. Once that technique has been mastered by the instrumentalist, that it makes it a lot easier for that instrumentalist to express himself, his own personality, through the instrument to the audience, rather than to adhere to some sort of metronomic regulations that are almost the same as punching a time clock at a factory. That's the kind of rhythm you're dealing with in ordinary classical music, where it's all very rigid, with an occasional tempo rubato that is roughly the equivalent of the afternoon coffee break when everybody wishes they would go home. In my music, you have a constant tempo most of the time, and inside of each bar, there's flexibility of the melodic line, which is notated by putting brackets over groups of notes and saying this many notes in the space of that many notes, which gives the effect of the line will speed up momentarily and then slow down momentarily, all inside of a fixed time signature that could allow you to tap your foot if you were so disposed.
In reviews that I've read, it's been described that clarinets wail, horns blat, violins shriek, scream, and moan. And are these the expressions that you're looking for, or that you search for, or indicate on your scores? You want to hear these horns talk more clearly?
No. The indications in my score do not say shriek, moan, and blat. They say things like smorzando, which is a musical term which means in a humorous manner. Or, like last night at the rehearsal, I told the sax section, which is in Sinister Footwear, to use corny vibrato in the realm of ace cannon, so that they got a specific effect. But generally speaking, when there's a large group of instruments that are supposed to be playing at the same time, making a chordal sound, I want it to sound like a chord, and not like a Cuisinart.
You are a serious musician, whatever genre you're writing in. you're attempting to speak musical truth, if that's not too pretentious sounding. I mean, the point...
Well, it certainly is. It's incredibly pretentious. No, and it's also pretentious sounding to say, oh, you are a serious music. It's differentiated from what? I mean, I do what I do for entertainment purposes, and there's a lot of craftsmanship in it, and that's probably the most serious aspect of it. But the basic idea, whether it's a piece for an orchestra or a chamber ensemble or a rock and roll band, is somebody should be entertained by it, preferably me. And then if anybody agrees with my point of view, then they will be entertained also.
Frank Zappa talking with Rosemary Tobin, NPR producer, who is a friend of KPFA and KQED, and would like for me to point out to you that Frank doesn't always wear a pink bathrobe and yellow shoes, only when it seems appropriate.
This broadcast of A Zappa Affair with the Berkeley Symphony Orchestra is a production of KQED-FM in cooperation with KPFA. And now here's Frank Zappa to introduce Mo and her...